Today's adventure with Miss Behaven is how to make Old Fashioned Divinity Candy. While this is a Christmas time favorite, we enjoy it all year round. Let's get started with the items we're going to need. You're going to need parchment paper or wax paper to put the final candy on. You're going to need a stand mixer. You can do it with a hand mixer, it's just a little more difficult. And we have our recipe that I've posted in the description box. We will need a pan to cook the sugar, water, and corn syrup in. And the ingredients we have are light corn syrup, which is here, half a cup, 2.5 cups of sugar. Then we're going to need a half a cup of water, 2 egg whites at room temperature. Then we're going to put vanilla, some salt in it, a cup of pecans, and you're going to need 2 spoons for dishing it out, and then this spatula I use to mix. And you will need definitely a candy thermometer. All right, let's get to cooking. Okay, here we go. We're going to start to add our ingredients for the portion we're going to cook on the stove. We are going to add our half a cup of water, 2.5 cups of sugar, our Karo syrup, and 1/8 of a teaspoon of salt, which I don't have a measuring device, but we'll just add that. And we are going to cook this over medium heat. And we are going to mix this all together. And once the sugar is mixed and dissolved, we're not going to mix this anymore. So once we get this good and mixed, then we're going to let it sit. We're going to put in our thermometer and let it sit until it gets 260 degrees. Okay, that looks pretty good and mixed and dissolved. Doesn't take very long. Try and get off the as much as you can off the edges so it doesn't crystallize. If it does start to crystallize, you can get a little wet plastic pastry brush and brush it off the edges, or I just use the spatula. Alright, we will add our candy thermometer. We don't want the thermometer to touch the bottom, so we're going to clip it to the side of the pan and raise it up so that the thermometer does not touch the pan. Then we're going to turn it on, and when that gets to 260 degrees, our candy is ready to do the next step. We'll come back to it when it starts to boil. Okay, while our sugar mixture is cooking, we're waiting for it to come up to temperature to 260 degrees. We're going to start to beat the egg whites. We have 2 eggs. We only want the whites. And these are at room temperature. Alright, so we're going to beat these on high until they form soft peaks. So we'll get that started. Let that go. And we'll check back on it in a few minutes. Okay, checking back with our egg whites here. We've got them to where they're forming soft peaks. Let's turn it off and check them. and that looks pretty good. So we will wait now for our candy mixture. Let's just check on it real quick. To come up to 260 degrees. We're at 151 degrees now. Just starting to boil. So we'll check back on this in a few minutes. All right, we're cooking now. We're boiling. Everything's going good. We're almost at 240 degrees. It'll take a little bit for it to get to 260. It seems like it takes forever once you get up to this stage, but it will finish in a couple more minutes, so we'll check back in it when it's at 260. Man, this has taken a while, but it is gonna be worth it. Here we go. We are almost to 260. And lift off. Let's take it over. And this to me is the hardest part of the entire making of the divinity, because you have to stand here and hold it while the mixer goes. So we're going to get this on high. And you are going to slowly, nice thin drizzle to add this in. A little bit of a thin drizzle. Until we get all of it mixed in. You don't want to rush this step at all. Slow and steady wins the race. A nice thin drizzle. Alright, so we're getting close to the end of putting in the sugar mixture, the candy mixture, and you can tell the difference in the sound of the mixer as it's starting to get thicker. Makes a lower humming, buzzing sound. Once we get all this in, we're going to let this run for several minutes until it can form a test. When we test it, we'll dollop out a clump of it onto a piece of parchment paper and we'll test it to see if it holds its shape. That's how we know it's done. Okay, so we're checking back. We're still mixing it on high, and you can kind of, hopefully you can hear it on the video, the motor speed sounds like a lower speed, and you can also hear it flapping around a little more because it's starting to take shape and hold its shape, as you can see in there, the little indentations. And this step does take several minutes to get it to where it's going to hold its shape. So we'll keep it mixing here until it's about time to do a test. Oh, this is looking so good. So we're getting to the point where it looks like we might start to do a test. So let's turn the mixer off. We're going to take a little bit of spoonful, and that's definitely holding its shape. We'll put it over here. Definitely holding its shape. So it is ready. You see that? The peak stands up on his own. Does that taste good? I'll eat this whole thing before I get it even made. Okay. So what we're going to do now is we are going to, does that taste good? Scrape this off. Does this taste good? All right, so we are going to add our teaspoon of vanilla. And our cup of chopped pecans. And mix it all together. We want to work quickly during this stage because it is going to start to harden. Especially when you add the pecans. Gives it more texture to harden up against. And mix it up as good as you can. I like to get it so all the pecans are covered. Boy, does that look good. All right, it's ready to dollop out. Okay, so here we are ready to do the dolloping out stage, and I have marshmallow fluff cream all over the GoPro on and off button. Well, I guess I'll lick that off later with all the other ones. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a spoonful, take another spoon, and just kind of plop it onto your paper. And you do want to work fast during this process because it will start to harden. Oops. You can make them, you know, smaller, bigger, whatever you want, but we love these things, so we like the bigger ones. But if you want to make smaller size ones, make them any, you know, just put whatever you want to scoop out. If you want a small one, just make them a little bit smaller on your spoon and use the other spoon to dish them out. Because once you get your fingers into this, besides licking your fingers every couple minutes, you're going to be covered in sticky candy. Tastes like marshmallow. So we'll get these all dolloped out. And then once we get them all dolloped out, we'll let this sit for a couple hours. And they will be ready to enjoy. And here's the final product. A lot of people are nervous about making divinity because they've heard that if it's raining outside or the humidity is too high, it's not going to turn out. Echo, what's the humidity?
Right now, the humidity is 87%.
We're in South Florida, the humidity is 87%. Obviously we're not outside, but it's still very humid, and they turned out just fine. You can just take a look at this one. That one's pretty much standing up on end, so it definitely held its shape. And my bonus is I get to lick the bowl, the spoons, the spatula, the mixer, and even the stuff I got on my GoPro camera. Yummy, it will not go to waste. Oh, and look at that yumminess. The final product, divinity. And who said you have to wait till Christmas to have all that yumminess? Not me.